Hey everyone, thank you for taking a little time out of your day to sit with me and talk about community. My name is Matt Lawson. I am a licensed professional counselor, LPC, with Vail Health. I also work within the Healthspan program as a mindset behavioral health provider, really supporting people in creating those healthy lifestyles and checking their mindset to make sure it's really on point. We're talking about a topic today that's very near and dear to me. I am a big believer in the power of community and just the benefits that it has connecting people, scaffolding them to a better way of life through their connections to others. So, I want to just start things off today with just taking a second and think about, envision a person. They're sitting in a coffee shop and maybe they're drinking a latte spice with some type of pumpkin-y thing. It's fall, kind of crisp, leaves are falling, and just a really beautiful fall day. And they're sitting there scrolling on their phones, right? You know, I'm hoping this isn't too hard for you to imagine. This is a pretty common sight. It's something that we very much so see in modern society. This sense of being surrounded by people, yet being alone. And this isn't as much about, this person's broken as much as it is something that we've evolved to, right? Like this is a modern individual. And when you think about just how much we have become connected in this day and age, yet disconnected at the same time, you start to see some of the problems that go along with this. Back in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, actually called this sense of loneliness, like what we're seeing in modern society, he called this a public epidemic. And really pushed into just how much this is negatively impacting us. In the work that I've done with individuals, I've seen people that expressed their loneliness, that were in relationships, that were married, just talking about how they just feel so disconnected and so not grounded in their worlds because of the lack of connections that they have. We are seeing the impact of loneliness on individuals' health. It's one of the things that we talk significantly about in the Healthspan program is, what are your connections like? Because it's just so significant to see how community and a person's place in those communities really supports their well-being. So, I really want to talk today about the impact that both loneliness and community have on our health, and see if there's some things I can suggest to really improve what you do to positively impact your community and positively impact your well-being by connecting to other people. So first off, let's go into a little biology here. Okay, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. The science of loneliness. Our brains are actually social organs, right? They've evolved toward being socially connected to other people. Our brains crave socialization, and we feel safe. We feel secure amongst others that we identify as safe and secure to us. You see things like oxytocin being released, and there is this vagal theory that the vagus nerve, we call it like the social nerve, is kind of connected to the input that it's getting from our environment. And when we feel safe, when we're around other people that make us feel safe, those pathways start to impact our biology. You see lower heart rates, you see lower blood pressure. You see the connections you get with others really just down like grading the rest of the system in a very positive way. We feel safe, we feel comforted. And think about that for a second. Think about the last time you were around somebody that you just felt comfortable with, that you felt connected with, and you were able to just let down all of your guard. Now envision situations in your lives, and we've all had them, where you just didn't have those connections. I think in particular around what I heard during COVID. right? When we were kind of forced out of our day-to-day groups of individuals, our day-to-day connections with other people, where they really were just struggling with a sense of security and a sense of safety, not being able to connect to other people. There was a Harvard medical study that was done. Granted, this was done back in the 1950s. It included pretty much all men, and it's one of the longest studies that has ever been done. I'm sorry, it started back in like in 1938, even longer. But they've been following these individuals over decades and have shown that over this time, it wasn't the achievement of these individuals, it wasn't their ability to earn money, it wasn't um, anything that was material that really showed their happiness and showed their longevity, but their connections to others was really one of the more significant factors that showed how long and happily they lived. And we're talking several hundred individuals that have been tested around this. So you're starting to see how this is really, how the impact of community is really coming together and showing just how important it is, how significant it is to our lives. Um, there is a modern disconnect, when you think about social media, right? When you think about the way social media is used, that sense of being connected to others, that sense of scrolling and seeing individuals, we've created this place. Social media has kind of created this place where there's almost a confusion, this confusion of connection versus contact. We've given up things like touch and hugs and things like that for text, and getting likes as a way to reinforce who we are and how we feel about ourselves, but at the cost of real true friendships and having those real sit down nice conversations around with each other. We've replaced kind of this sense of getting the oxytocin kind of mixing in our blood systems and in our brains with just these quick dopamine hits. I call it like sugar for the brain, right? Like this is the equivalent. Social media is the equivalent of a candy bar, and we're just having these little bites of candy bars all day long. They're just giving these like little quick little dopamine hits, and they're giving us a sense of contact, but they're not really giving us a sense of connection. And this leaves people emotionally and psychologically malnourished. If you think about it, if you think about those times where you've lost yourself down a rabbit hole of social media and how you feel at the end of it, the shame sometimes is associated with like, oh my gosh, I've just spent an hour in this rabbit hole of looking at people, this fake sense of connecting to others, this fake sense of getting, thumbs up and recognition from others, but still this feeling of emptiness that comes with it. And when I've seen individuals that have come into sessions and they talk about this, they talk about their struggles with social media, they talk about the impact that it has on them. They express just how empty it makes them feel and how long it's been since they've really connected to others. And when you look at kind of the way modern society has been geared toward what socializing means, we spend most of our time at work, right? I think a lot of the times, depending on where you work, that proximity to others kind of gets billed as this is my socializing time. Like your brain makes that connection. They're like, oh, I'm around these individuals. Like this is my socializing time. But we all know, again, depending on where we work, that a lot of times this is pretty superficial. You have those water cooler talks that are kind of whatever. Maybe you do have some colleagues that are there for connection, and maybe even spend time together after work as friends. But a lot of the times you see the way that work goes and the way that our brains react to it as almost this false sense of really connecting with others. And it's not something that necessarily has to be that way. We can develop these relationships, these friendships, but we have to be very aware of it. So something else I really want to bring up is these blue zones. So National Geographic, this researcher named Dan Buettner, did this research a while back, and he found these areas around the world called blue that he termed blue zones. And basically, these were areas where they lived happier, and you know what you were seeing were these social connections from like that were just built into the cultures. So you have places like Sardinia, um, in Italy. You have places like Nicoya in Costa Rica, Loma Linda, which is in California, and it's a Seventh Day Adventist kind of colony there in California. You have places like Okinawa, Japan, and these individuals, like Okinawa actually has like a century club. They don't call it the century club, but they have groups of individuals that live to 100 to 100 plus abnormally long lives for a cluster of individuals they just don't see anywhere else in the world. And even with some of these places with the diet not actually being on point, with things like movement not always being like a big piece of their society. Like you don't see lots of gyms in places like Okinawa or Costa Rica, Sardinia, but they have community. They have community. They have community that like they go for nice long walks and talk to each other. They have meals that are pretty healthy that they eat around and again talk to each other and connect and have that sense of being, that sense of belonging. And we've seen this time and time again, yet we just don't develop it within our society. We're more about what, producing and getting things done and taking care of business. That taking the time with other people is oftentimes almost seen as a negative. Like we have things to do. Small talk isn't productive enough. But how do we find those connections? How do we take that time and allow it to balance with the rest of our lives? This concept, again, from Okinawa, Japan, it's called Moai, Moai, and this literally means common purpose. And this is one of the nice things that goes along with building community. This is one of the things that goes along with having these individuals in your lives, is they help us find purpose. That gives us those reasons to get up and wanting to have that new day, and finding that enjoyment of the day, looking forward to seeing other individuals. And you see these groups of people in Okinawa that do this over generations. Like they're actually assigned to groups of like up to 8 people from a really early age. And through their lifespan, they're connected with these individuals. And it's almost like having built-in best friends over your life. And they do things like they have their tea together, they have their birthday together, they grieve together, they laugh together. But they tend to always have this built-in system of connection and this way to really have others in their lives that just are there for them. And it's something that I don't think I've taken for granted over the years, but I feel like as in a Western society, it's something that has slowly kind of been eroded over time. You can probably reference back to olden days and think about some of the community that was talked about. I'm 50 now, and back when I was a kid, it was pretty common to have block parties, like annual block parties. This is in Indianapolis, at the time, a kind of Midwest upbringing. We had annual block parties. We had birthday parties. We're just like bouncing to each other's houses, like within a couple of blocks of each other. I have memories of constantly coming together. That's a little bit tougher in a place like Chicago, where I've also lived. I lived in a high rise. It's very hard to have block parties in high rises. Yet I lived right next door to people, and some of these individuals I never even really met until like maybe I was moving out and I ran into them in a hallway, or we just happened to be on an elevator together. But nobody really made an effort to really get to know each other. Not like when I was in Indianapolis. And I've seen this like kind of happen over time from being a kid to being 50 now. Like that sense of people actively trying to create community types of events and community types of things, like I just don't see it as much. And I've lived probably in 5 different states over my lifetime. And you know, I think it has become harder and harder and harder for individuals to make time for each other. And that's what I'm really pushing for and really looking at, when it comes to ways that we help individuals, ways that mental health is improved by having that community in a person's life. A lot of the times you'll see somebody that comes in for therapy, and they talk about depression, they talk about anxiety, and they talk a lot about loneliness. And when you really start to dig into their lives and what they do and what they have going on, a significant part of it is spent kind of day to day. Have like their really only significant interaction are the people at home and the people at work. They have very little time that they've created for anything really outside of work. And again, people get busy. They have things like their events for their kids, or events for other family members that that takes up a lot of their time. People are tired by the end of the week, and it's not always easy to muster up that energy to do one more thing or to talk to one more person. And I think what happens is people forget, and it's easy to forget just how much they could benefit from connecting with others. And we're not talking that you need to surround yourself with people. We're not saying, hey, go out and constantly go hit these like social places like bars or things like that. We're really talking about quality here. And I'm speaking specifically to my introverts, and I think that's one of the misnomers that has been pushed when it comes to what it means to really develop community, is that means you need to surround yourself with people and have as many friends as possible. And when we talk about community and we talk about the benefits that community has, we're really speaking to quality. You want to have quality people in your life, maybe more than one or two, but being able to develop those relationships with others, even if it's somebody from like high school or grade school that you grew up with, and you still have them in your life, like those quality relationships, those quality connections are just going to benefit you. And that over like anything superficial, feeling like you have to go out and again make tons of friends doesn't necessarily move the needle. Doesn't even for extroverts. Sure, like you energize by going out and being around a lot of people, but the quality of the individuals that you really let into your life becomes important, and that really tends to be the significant piece here that is going to help individuals. So looking toward how we do this better, how we improve upon our social connections. Um, this oftentimes means entertaining things like our hobbies. The amount of adults that I've spoken to on a regular basis that sit there and tell me that they no longer have hobbies, and I have plenty of individuals that consider themselves hobbyists that I work with, and they have multiple hobbies. But I would say more than half the people that I talk to that are in their 30s and older really don't have hobbies or things that they enjoy outside of their relationships. And a lot of the times when they look at, well, then what do you do? And it's just like, well, I'm raising kids, I'm going to work. I just don't have time for these other things. And, in the same breath, a lot of the time, I also hear like, I don't have time for other people or to let other people into my life. Because one of the nice things with hobbies is it gives you something to connect with others around. And it doesn't, again, have to be anything that is just that puts you in groups of large people. I mean, you can have a hiking hobby that you do with a couple of people each weekend, every once in a while. You can have other hobbies that just put you in rooms with other people of like-minded and have those interests that you can just share. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. So looking at what you already have and seeing what relationships you can develop there. So, if you regularly attend church, if you regularly go to the gym, if you have other places that are pretty regular or weekly for you that you already go to, and this includes work, who are people there that potentially could be those connections that you start developing. Um, a adult relationship is another area that I just am fascinated by. There are people that I see that will meet somebody in line at a bank, and next thing you know, they've made plans next week to go get coffee and just talk. Um, and I think those individuals are outliers compared to people that I see that could be in a room of people that they've known for years and years and years and years, or months and months and months and months, and still really maybe you don't even know their last name. Um, but again, like, look at where you're already going on a regular basis and see where the opportunities exist to start developing some of those relationships. It's You already have something kind of built in where you're going to a regular place with this individual on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. So you can start just develop, and just taking inventory around what you need in your life. And it's maybe for some of you that are watching this, I'm introducing something that you may not even realize that you've needed for a while. Maybe you do have individuals in your cup in your life that already fill your cup, and you feel like those relationships help. Yet, you find yourself escaping. You find yourself, um, you know, wanting just a little bit more. So, what does it mean to potentially look and just take a quick audit of your life and just think like, what else is important here? What else would really kind of cap things off and add to my world that much more? But really start to consider what community means. People don't even realize how important it is or how much that's missing from their world until others bring it to them and show like, hey, this is actually a really nice thing to have. I think therapy and friendship, there's a really nice gray area in between both of those things. But you need them both a lot of the times. Like, of course, I'm going to advocate for therapy. I think everybody should do it. Um, but I also think too that you to have those friendships, to not necessarily say all the things that you would say in therapy, but just to have that place again of safety, to have that place of security, to have those people that just really really ground you, um, along with kind of therapy. It does make for a really nice balance. So really start looking around to see what community can be for you and how you can develop it a little bit better in your world. Um, this is going to be something that will pay off long term. This is going to be something that will improve upon a healthy lifestyle if you already feel like, especially if you already feel like so many aspects of that lifestyle have been hit. You're doing things like working out and eating well on a regular basis. A lot of the times that next piece is community. Um, and we have something like that built into things like our Healthspan program. We have things built into places like Vail Health. Find that community, figure out how you can best fit in it, and live longer and happier. Thanks for watching this. I really appreciate it, and I hope you got something out of it. That's all.